I had a little sister. She was 6 months. She was premature. They said that she wasn't gonna survive. She wasn't gonna be, and the doctors offered the paper to my mom, saying that she's not gonna live. Sign the paper, help her die.
That's really, it's uncalled for. They get paid to take care of these people.
When I was 19 weeks pregnant, I went in for an ultrasound, and the doctor found some markers, and he said, "We think your baby has a condition called trisomy 18. And I had never heard of it before. I asked what it was, and he said, "It's similar to Down syndrome, trisomy 21, but more severe." And he said, "You need to have an amnio." And I said, "Well, I don't want to risk hurting Peter. It doesn't matter to us if he has this or not." And he said, "Well, you'll have more choices if you find out." And I said, "If you mean abortion, we're not going to abort our little baby." And he said, "Well, nobody carries these babies to term, and they don't live beyond 2 weeks." Well, the pregnancy continued, and then at 33 weeks, I noticed he had slowed down moving in the womb. And so they did an emergency C-section, and little Peter was born. He was 3 pounds, 2 ounces, just a tiny little guy. They gave him great care up until day 2 of his life. And at that time, the test came back saying that he did have full trisomy 18. At that point, it was recommended that we stop all treatment and wrap him up in a blanket and hold him as he dies. In the meantime, our daughter had gone on the internet and did some research, and she called me at the hospital and she said, "Mom, there are kids living with this." She said, there's even some adults living with this. And I said, "Well, print off the stories and bring them up to the hospital." So the next day when the doctor came in, I had all these stories, and I said to him, "Why did you lie to me?" And he said, "Well, we have to think about resources." He said, "Peter will never contribute to society, and he'll be a horrible burden to your family. And we recommend that you just let him go." And I just cried. We took Peter home, and he was very small, and we took him into the pediatrician, for checkups quite frequently. And his pediatrician every time would say, "Peter's going to die. Be prepared, he's going to die, he's going to die." And after a few years, I got so tired of hearing that, I asked him, "Doctor, when are you going to die?" And he said, "What?" And I said, "Well, you're so fond of telling me, that Peter's going to die. I thought maybe you knew when you were going to die too." And he quit saying that after that. In reality, Peter was the easiest of all our 11 children. I always knew where he was. He never talked back to me. He was just a joy and a great blessing. Unfortunately, the end of Peter's life was much like the beginning of his life. He had gone in to the hospital, and they determined he needed to have his appendix removed. They did the operation, and the surgeon came out and said Peter did great, that he got all the infection and that his heart was stable. The next day, we noticed his abdomen was getting bigger and bigger, and we asked the doctor what that could be. He ordered an ultrasound, and he did it himself, and he said that he saw air. And he also told us that Peter was filled with infection. And we questioned him and said, "Well, the surgeon said he wasn't, that he got all the infection." A couple hours later, after the ultrasound, Peter died. All the alarms went off, and my husband had gone home, and he came back and he asked the doctor what happened, and the doctor said, "Well, it was the infection, and his heart just couldn't take it." We knew something was horribly wrong with the way Peter died. We decided to get an independent autopsy done. The autopsy doctor cautioned us, saying, "In the majority of cases, I find nothing wrong." And we said, "We hope that's what you find." Well, she called us back when she was done, and she said, "I was shocked by what I found." She said, "Peter had almost a liter of blood in his abdomen. Your son bled to death." And I said, "Are you telling me Peter didn't have to die?" And she said, "Yes, I believe Peter did not have to die." And we were devastated. think Peter still lives on in the ministry he inspired, and he still lives on in our hearts. We talk about him all the time. My prayer was always that he would die at home surrounded by people he loved, not die in a hospital at the hands of those who never could see the value of his life.